Hello. Hello, everyone. I think we're going to be live in a second, but I'm going to keep dawdling until we are. I think we're live now. So, welcome. Welcome, everyone. It feels like it's been an absolute age since we did a live stream of any kind on a Sunday. So, it's kind of strange. I appreciate that we're also 12 minutes late, so sorry about that. It's been a very, I'd say, a difficult evening because the clock's changed today, and our daughter has decided that she did not want to sleep. So that's made things a bit challenging. Well, technically, Lewis, we are on time because the clock's changed today. So we've gone along with that. But I appreciate that we may have a slightly different audience today. The clock changing is always very tricky to get around. We woke up this morning thinking, wow, we've had so much extra sleep, and we then found out we hadn't actually had any extra sleep at all. So that was a bit of a bummer. Anyway, that's why I'm streaming by myself tonight, because Lauren is trying to keep a lid on things. She was going to join, but Ali did not want her to join, so therefore she had to go the other way, and is hopefully manning the live chat. We'll see. We will see. But hello, everyone. How is everyone? It's been a while since the last live stream, and hopefully you've all had a good Sunday so far. Happy belated birthday, Lightning H8. Hopefully you had a good day. So today we are going to be talking about Dissidia NT and I guess the future of the franchise, because from everything I'm seeing, Dissidia NT has had a pretty lackluster launch, I'd say. It's hasn't sold that well in Japan. It didn't really chart anywhere in the UK, the US, or any other market really. It's kind of just done okay. I think that's probably the best that we could say about it. Its performance at this point, it can't have sold that well. I mean, I don't think Square Enix will ever actually release figures just because of how badly it's done. But it's just really I want to kind of have a conversation with you guys about how you feel about Dissidia. I know that some of you, like Lewis James, is still really passionate about Dissidia NT. How many of you guys are actually still playing Dissidia NT at this point? Like, does it still have much of a community going on? I know that some communities have tried to kind of bolster up things. Like, I know that Jake Final Fantasy Peasant was even trying to do his Novicia tournaments, but that didn't align because of various things. But how many of you guys are still actively playing Dissidia NT at this point? And if you aren't, how long did you play for? And if you didn't even play it, why did you decide that you didn't want to get it? Was it just because you didn't think it was going to be the kind of experience that you were interested in, or like what was the kind of deciding factor for you? Okay, so there's still a couple of people that are still playing it. That's kind of what I've heard. LMAO that that there's a lot of people. Well, not a lot of people, but some of the people that are still playing it are basically reporting that if you try and play online, it's difficult to actually find 5 other people to play with. There's more and more reports now of just complete bot matches. And obviously, if that is the case and that is happening, it's kind of a shame because the game was built around online play. So if the community isn't there, then that's a bit of a disappointment. How many of you guys are struggling with that? How many of you guys are struggling to find people to play with? Is it an actual thing that's kind of legitimately happening? Because Laura and I actually haven't had too much time to play Dissidia. We played it a lot during like the first week or two of launch, but because of other things that have been going on, like we talked on the last podcast that I was reviewing Dynasty Warriors 9. I've just reviewed Attack on Titan 2. So are there like legitimate problems going on with the online mode? And that's a good plus there, Lewis. If the online bot matches do help with the online trophies, so If you are struggling to get those A plus plus wins, then the bots should be a saving grace for that. Also, like, what do you guys feel has happened with the quality of people playing online? Do you feel that it's kind of settled out now? Because obviously, when online games launch, usually there's the kind of proving grounds a little bit. Like, you have the people that, like, it's kind of a free for all, and then it starts to balance out. Like, where do you guys feel the community's at in terms of skill level right now? Has the bar raised? Like, do you feel that if people were picking up Dissidia NT now and they decided to play online, do you feel like it would be a much bigger learning curve for them than if they'd have started playing at the beginning? Like, because I feel that's often what happens with online games, especially if the community isn't that kind of strong either. It's like if you, I think a year or two after release, I started playing Killzone Shadowfall online, and the people that were still playing it were the hardcore people. Whereas obviously when you start playing at launch, it's a lot easier to get kills and stuff because you get the different skill levels playing. That's kind of what I thought, Ryan. That's kind of what I thought. But I guess, like, so with how Dissidia has gone and with their plans, do you feel as though the roadmap that they've put down of having a new DLC character pretty much every 2 to 3 months, do you feel that is enough to keep people energized? Because obviously we've just had the announcement of Vayne as the first DLC character. It's taken like 2 months before the announcement happened. Do you feel as though that announcement actually was enough to kind of bring people back? I'm talking about the people that are actively still playing it. When they announced Vayne, did you see more uptake in matches? Were there less people playing it? Like, what do you feel that actually did with regards to bringing people back into the game? Because I felt like it was kind of a mixed reaction to the announcement. Some people were really happy because Final Fantasy XII had an antagonist. Vayne was a new character for Dissidia. We'd never had him before. But there were also a lot of people that were hoping that Gabranth was going to come into the fore. Gabranth was obviously a very popular character. We'd seen him before in the Dissidia games. And I feel like a lot of people were expecting it to be Gabranth. But, Vayne is decent as well. But I guess it's like what we were saying before with regards to their post-launch roadmap. For this kind of game, you have to get people excited. Really, they should have come out with their biggest character first, which if they have done and Vayne is their biggest character first, that's a little bit underwhelming, I'd say. But how do you guys feel about Vayne? Are you guys excited to play as Vayne? Are you not necessarily too pleased? Also, I'd say, like, do you feel that the community is really going to stick with the game until the end of the DLC roadmap? I guess that's the other question, because if we're already at 2 months down and the community's kind of died down and the online side of things isn't that kind of active, do you feel that come February, why can I not say that? February, when when the last character in the DLC lineup is released, do you feel like that Dissidia NT is actually going to have that much traction anymore? Yeah, I mean, Lightning Hate, that's what I was kind of saying. Like, they're going to be doing Dissidia NT updates until 2019. And to be honest, at this rate, it looks like Final Fantasy 15 is going to be getting updates longer than Dissidia NT. I mean, it's weird because also they said that they were going to be adding DLC characters based on popularity, but I don't ever really remember Vayne being a popular character by any stretch of the imagination. And yeah, as you said, Lewis, they've kind of overshadowed the announcement of Vayne by announcing Noctis. Well, we already knew that Noctis was going to be in Tekken, but the fact that Noctis is coming to Tekken at the same time as they roughly announced Vayne was a bit of a... I don't really know whose decision that was. Like, I mean, obviously it's different teams, so the Noctis thing is obviously with BD2, but that seemed a bit strange to me that they kind of did the timing of those announcements so close to each other. Yeah, it was a bit of a weird one. What have the patch updates been like? Have they, because obviously with one of the first patches they added spectator mode. Have they been doing anything else to try and kind of bolster things up, or is it just still a bit basic? Also, I would say like there's almost 50 of you guys in the chat now. Feel free to like the stream if you're enjoying the dialogue. I appreciate it's not the most, I guess, positive of conversations, but it kind of just... Okay, so I'm going to explain why I picked this topic, because I have a bit of a... Everyone knows I have a soft spot for Crystal Chronicles, and it's always a shame for me when franchises go down this route, because Dissidia NT, everyone was super excited to play Dissidia on consoles. People have been super excited for Dissidia NT for a while, and when it launched, it just seems to have just deflated any enthusiasm around the franchise. And to be honest, I know that the idea of Dissidia NT and Dissidia Arcade is that it can live for a while, and I can imagine Dissidia Arcade being in Japanese arcades for years to come. But Dissidia NT has kind of sapped the life out of any enthusiasm there was for any more console action of this kind. And I am somewhat fearful that because Dissidia NT has done so badly, this could well be the end of this franchise. Just like Crystal Chronicles was driven into a rut and ended up being like small WiiWare games and stuff. Like they just didn't really know what to do with it, and instead of kind of sticking to what they knew the fans wanted, they just kept trying to change things and modify and all that kind of stuff. Like, do you feel as though Dissidia NT has kind of signaled the end of Dissidia, or do you think they're going to still recycle it as they have done in the past, and we could see another Dissidia game in 2028, as it would be? What are you guys agreeing with? You all agreeing with comments, or are you agreeing with what I'm saying? Yeah, no, I agree, Yusuf. And actually, that's one of the interesting things to come out of this: the fact that Opera Omnia has by far outshadowed Dissidia NT. From everything I'm seeing, Opera Omnia has managed to forge a much bigger community. Like on Reddit, the Opera Omnia Reddit is much more vibrant. There's a lot more going on. YouTubers as well are covering Opera Omnia way more than they're covering Dissidia. I haven't really seen any Dissidia NT people at all talking about it. And it's a real shame. And when we go back to what they were talking about before launch and how they wanted to become an esport with Dissidia NT and all of that kind of stuff, it's just so deflating to see that everything has just died down so quickly. And I mean, the support from Square Enix has been almost non-existent as well. Like, aside from the announcement of Vayne, they obviously in Japan they still try and do stuff because of the arcade, but in the West I don't think they've even really spoken about the Dissidia NT at all. Like, they have not been pushing out anything regarding the patch updates, any improvements they're trying to do. There's been almost no press around any improvements they're trying to make. It's actually quite disappointing in that regard, that they've just kind of launched it and just said, oh, okay, well, let's just not even bother trying to build this up anymore. But it is really pleasing to see Opera Omnia build up the way it has, because I don't think anyone was really anticipating it to do that. And, there's obviously been some successes on mobile with Record Keeper, Brave Exvius, and Mobius. But I think Opera Omnia has really captured people in a way that wasn't expected. I feel like the three previous games I mentioned, like, they appeal to different kinds of people, but Opera Omnia seems to be the one that has taken the mobile naysayers, like the ones that were really ardently against mobile games, and it's kind of managed to draw them in somehow, which I would say is really impressive. And, you know, you got to give the guys credit for being able to achieve that. You know, it's a very interesting game in the fact that it doesn't really push monetization in your face at all. And, you know, even without the story, they're adding, I think, new story chapters roughly every month. There's still plenty to do with there. Lauren and I have actually been pretty busy this last week, so we haven't really had a chance to play it. But that's, you know, it's taken a while for us to tone things down a little bit on the game, and you know, comparing to Dissidia NT, which we stopped playing pretty quickly afterwards, Opera Omnia has held our attention way more. But yeah, I don't think anyone actually said, like, what do you guys think is going to happen with the future of Dissidia? Do you feel like, I mean, obviously Square Enix have to support it throughout the year because they've got a season pass, they've committed to it, and it's going to happen whether or not we care about that. But do you feel like they're just going to do the bare minimum in other regards? Do you feel like they're going to try and change our perceptions of Dissidia NT, or do you think they're just going to leave it? And as I said, like, do you feel that the performance of Dissidia NT, the fact that it hasn't sold that well, do you feel that has affected the future of the franchise? Like, do you feel that we're going to see like an upbeat? Because obviously when Dissidia came out originally, it did so well that they did Dissidia Duodecim like a couple of years after as a follow-up, but I just don't see them doing that with Dissidia NT. I don't feel like there's much impetus for them to do that. And Sea of Lightning, hi Jamie Hunt, how's it going? Anderson, I feel like unfortunately you may be waiting quite a while for them to add in Yuna, Riku, and Pain into Dissidia NT. Yuna I can see them adding, but Riku and Pain probably not, unfortunately. All right, so with the kind of downbeat conversation around Dissidia, what has everyone else been playing at the moment? You know, are there any other Final Fantasy games people are playing out? Like, are there any new game or any games you're going back to checking out? Lauren obviously is playing through Final Fantasy 15 at the moment, but she was also trying to do Final Fantasy 4, but ended up having to stop that to play Final Fantasy 15, and she also ended up having to stop World of Final Fantasy. But are there any other games you guys are playing at the moment? I think like we've been seeing a lot of people going, obviously playing Final Fantasy 15, because it just released on the PC. I think it's sold pretty well so far. I think it's like 250,000 sales at the moment. But those of you who are playing Final Fantasy 15, how are you guys enjoying it? Do you feel like the new content is worth it? Dark Lord 1061, I would definitely play 10 Part 2 if you can. Final Fantasy 10 2 is great. Lauren was actually saying that she was really wanting to play it on stream just because we both really love 10-2, and it still for some reason gets that bad rap. I feel like it's been tarnished because obviously when it was releasing, everyone started talking about the fact that it was a really dumbed down game. It was girl power and all that stuff, and like there is of course a degree of that in there, but you know there is also a lot of decent content within 10-2. Like, it's probably one of the darkest Final Fantasy games. Like, there's some really bad stuff that happens in that game. It's far from the airy fairy happy clappy that people made out to be. Alex, are there still a lot of people playing Comrades? And also, does anyone know if you can do crossplay with Comrades? Is it, if you were playing on PC, are you restricted to only playing with PC people, or did they make it so that if you're playing Comrades, you can play Final Fantasy PS4 and PC? Does it work that way? Future Warrior Hero 123. Maybe that's a video that we should do, because Lauren and I really like Final Fantasy X-2, and there is a lot to really enjoy about X-2. Why do people like X-2 so much? Or maybe that should be the next live stream we do. For one, I would say it's probably got the best combat in the franchise. I'd say it's really up there with Final Fantasy 13 for me in terms of the combat, but it kind of acts as a precursor to it in a way. But X-2 has like incredible. It's basically the best iteration of the ATB system that you'll ever find. I do agree, Venom. They did make some mistakes with regards to how they handled Yuna, and Lauren, if she was here, would start going on a rampage about how much she hates the fact that they brought back Titus. But like, I feel like the way they allowed Yuna to grow, and I think that was the most important thing, because obviously in the first game she has this massive support network, and yeah, sure, like it's Titus's story, but it's very much Yuna's story as well. But within X-2, you really get to see her growth and how much she's changed because she's moved on from Titus. Like, yeah, sure, she was looking for a way to bring him back, and that was the basic impetus for the story. But her journey is so much more than that. And yeah, like the true ending of X-2 was kind of fan service. But they did a lot right with that game, I think. And yeah, it just gets that bad rep because it's an all female cast, and it was really different at the time. You know, how many games had 3 female leads? Hardly any, and a lot of people were turned off by that because it was just so unorthodox. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, Anderson. You know, the perfect ending of X-2, as we've seen from Lauren's video where she talked about the fact that she wished that Titus hadn't come back, people were 50-50 on that. Some people were well on board with what Lauren was trying to say. Some people thought that she was just being a social justice warrior and didn't listen to anything she said. And some people had legitimate reasons as to why they thought that Titus should have been brought back. It's a very interesting topic, and I think that's one of the good things about the 10 franchise. Like, there aren't many games within the Final Fantasy franchise that have endings that are up for debate. Like, you can't really have a discussion about many of them. It's like Final Fantasy 7. Well, they stopped Meteor. Like, you can't disagree with that at all. Like, there's no opinion that can be had. It's like, they did it. Okay. Final Fantasy 8, like, again, yeah, sure, there's some interpretation that you can take in terms of what happens in the ending, but like, there's not really much you can discuss about it. Like, you can't disagree with it. It happens. Final Fantasy 9, it's like, again, they just put everything in a neat little bow, and again, you agree with it. But Final Fantasy 10 and 10-2, the way that they did that, like, they made it a discussion topic. The fact that there are a couple of different endings, but you know, the fact that Yuna's story arc is so strong that people can debate and have such strong opinions about whether or not they feel that how Titus was handled in relation to her. I think that's a really strong point to the game, because yeah, like, not many of them actually have the ability to kind of make you think about the characters in that way. Jamie Hunt, what do I think about Vayne coming to Dissidia? Kind of discussed it earlier, but I think it was kind of underwhelming, to be honest. I feel like Gabranth would have been a much better character for them to add from Final Fantasy 12. Yes, there could have been... I guess there could have been the people that are just gone like, well, again, it's a character we've already had. But I feel like Gabranth is a character that people wanted them to add, even though he isn't original. Because he's just an interesting character. There's a lot of people like Gabranth. Vayne, I don't really think he has much of a fan base. And to be honest, I think he was kind of an underwhelming villain in Final Fantasy 12. Like, he didn't really do that much. Yeah, Dark Lord 1061. I don't know what they're going to do with if they're going to add in more endings of Final Fantasy 15. Tabata has obviously done that thing where he's asking people for their opinion on whether or not they'd like different types of ending. I think he was just kind of trying to humor people, but we'll see what happens with that, I guess. Level 1, that seems to kind of be the general consensus. There's been a couple of people in the chat that have said they're still playing Dissidia NT, but it seemed as though most people have kind of either not bought it in the first place just because they didn't think it was going to be that great, or they've kind of been turned off it after a couple of weeks. But yeah, we could talk about. I mean, I could talk about 10-2 all day. I think there's so much that people don't necessarily appreciate about that game. The stuff that we talked about before with the Crimson Squad, like it's serious. Like that doesn't mess around. Final Fantasy 10 is a very serious game, but Final Fantasy 10-2 has some like way more serious moments in the narrative. Yeah, sure, it has the campy stuff too, and some people don't like that kind of stuff. But there's lots of stuff that people don't like in life. But that doesn't mean you should just poo-poo an entire game because Yuna wears a Moogle costume at the beginning, or they strike a pose once. Yeah, I've got to say, Dark Lord, I actually enjoyed the beta for Dissidia NT way more than the actual. I don't know why that is. Like I must have played, I'd say close to 100 matches in the beta, and then when Dissidia NT came out, I pretty much finished the story. I think I had to beat one summon left, but I couldn't be bothered to grind for the Memoria. Like it was just such a hassle. Like I think we maybe did 10, 15, 20 matches online, but it just lost me. Like I just focused on other things and just never went back to it, which is a real shame because obviously we were all looking forward to Dissidia NT. I was looking forward to Dissidia NT. I said I played the beta a load, but by the time the actual game came out, there wasn't enough there to really hold my attention. And I think it's a lot of people that there's so many people that have been really passionate about the Dissidia franchise, and they were really looking forward to Dissidia NT. And I know that there's some people that say that this is why you shouldn't get hyped about a game, but getting hyped about a game is part of the experience. There's nothing wrong with being excited and hoping that the developers deliver on your expectations. And to be honest, a lot of the expectations were based on what they had previously produced. We weren't asking for them to do anything other than what we'd seen in Dissidia or Duodecim. We just were hoping that we would get a similar kind of experience, and we didn't. And what they produced wasn't better than what we were expecting. And that's always the thing. Kitase had talked about it with Final Fantasy VII. Final Fantasy VII was very different from Final Fantasy VI, and they had it was a real risk for them. But they had to make sure that what they did produce, even though it was different to what people expected, was still really high quality to make them forget that they weren't expecting that. Dissidia NT, they just didn't achieve that. And there are some merits to it. I think the 3v3 gameplay actually works out pretty well if you've got a coordinated party. But there's a lot about it that just was lackluster, and it's reflected in pretty much everything to do with the game. Review scores are really bad, sales are really bad. The community is just not where they would have wanted it to be. Serious question. Do you think Noctis and Luna had to... Oh, that's a spoiler question. Well, I mean, according to the prophecy, probably yes. That's all I'll say. Yeah, that was probably the better way to go around at Mecha Soldier in terms of just getting the Memorial first and then watching all in one go. But I wanted to watch the story. Like I just I don't know. I just the story for me is more interesting. I've rarely played that many online only games. I think the only one I really got into is Warhawk, and that had zero story whatsoever. It was purely online, but it was also hella fun. Like the gameplay in Warhawk was absolutely fantastic. Dissidia NT doesn't have that, I'm afraid. And like the whole experience with Dissidia NT, with the lobby system, the waiting around, the shortness of the matches, it doesn't really encourage you to stick around and become part of something. Don't worry, Davis. I've got you covered. Stopped myself before I read the full question because I preemptively thought it would be a spoiler question. We like to keep spoiler free here, people. Come on. SMG, I don't know what your name is actually. Please tell me how to pronounce your name. Do I think the plan was to make Dissidia a more popular sub-franchise that's making Opera Omnia and NT? I don't think they really had a plan, to be honest. I think they were launching NT. I think they decided that they were going to launch Opera Omnia because pretty much every single game now has to have some kind of online component. And it seems that every single business division has to have mobile games to help support their revenue stream. I think Opera Omnia was more of a convenience than anything else. I don't think they really anticipated it with doing it as well as it has, and I don't think they anticipated Dissidia NT doing as badly as it's done. I think it's probably come as a big shock to them because clearly the arcade version is doing well in Japan, but the Japanese sales cannot be anywhere near what they were expecting. I mean, the original Dissidia sold close to 1 million copies. Geodecim, I think, sold 600,000-700,000 copies. Dissidia NT is, I don't think it's even managed to hit 200,000, which is poor. For a game of that magnitude, it's poor. That's not even I don't think it's even sold a fifth of what Final Fantasy 15 managed. And I think Dissidia NT has probably sold less than World of Final Fantasy, which, if you think about it, is just that is terrible. Dissidia NT is supposed to be the game that is the celebration of the franchise, and they pushed it. Like they've had a year, 2 years of constant build up and hype, not necessarily within the wider community, but whenever they announced a new character in the Japanese arcade, those trailers got viewed hundreds of thousands of times. Like, it's not a joke. And they obviously announced it at E3. They had a lot of focus and they did a lot of promotional work. They were getting streamers involved. They were doing a lot of community stuff, especially in North America, and it just hasn't sold. And yeah, as you said, Anderson, the schedule is just nonsensical. The fact that we have to wait a year to get 6 characters. I don't think anyone's going to be playing the game in a year to really care about that 6th character when they come out. It's sad to say, but I think that's pretty much where we're at. And I don't want to sit here kind of being a Debbie Downer about Final Fantasy games because I was excited about Dissidia NT, but I can't also shy away from the fact that it just hasn't delivered. Okay, Lauren, do you think it's time for us to announce our giveaway winners? I'll answer Ryan Flowers' question while you deliberate. So Ryan was just asking, what's my opinion of World of Final Fantasy? I think it's great. I really do. And it was a real shame to me that it got screwed over so much by Final Fantasy 15. Although to be honest, I'm not too sure if it actually benefited from 15 being delayed. It's difficult to tell. Obviously, you could look at it from the perspective of there were a lot of people that that ended up not getting World of Final Fantasy because they were saving for Final Fantasy 15. Sorry, Lauren. Good catch there. I'm not actively doing a give. Well, we kind of are. But yeah, we're going to be announcing the giveaway winners. But we do also have an announcement about like the giveaway winners too, if that makes sense. But yeah, World of Final Fantasy was a game that I really enjoyed. I think the writing in it was really good. I was really glad that it gave Hiroki Chiba more of a spotlight, because I think he's someone that's been at Square Enix for a very long time. He's worked on a lot of the scenarios for games like Final Fantasy 7, Final Fantasy 8, Final Fantasy 10, I think. So he's been around the block for a while, and it was really good to see him get a chance to show what he can do as a director. I think the way that they wrote the Final Fantasy characters into the storyline was really well done, and I think there was a lot of Easter eggs within the dialogue. Like, anyone who's played any of the older games and sees the interactions between the characters will just get a real kick out of it. Like, it's just the way that like Tidus and Yuna talk to each other. It's just so well done, and I really wish that more people would pick it up and give it a try, because it's so much fun. It also has an ATB system. There's obviously the unique mechanics with the stacking in there that work well. But yeah, I think that people should give it a chance if they haven't done. All right, so I think last week we announced that we were doing a giveaway for our Patreon supporters, and that we were going to be giving away 2 copies of the Final Fantasy 15 Royal Edition. I am now going to announce who won. So I don't know if any of you guys are actually watching the stream right now. I know that there are some Patreon supporters watching the stream right now, but I don't know if these 2 specific guys are watching the Patreon stream. But if they are, they will know right now they've won. If they aren't, we're going to message them to let them know. But the 2 winners of the giveaway were Martin Johnson and James Isaac Keynes. So congrats to those guys. You will have a copy each of the Royal Edition coming your way. But we also wanted to say that when we announced the giveaway, I don't know if we'd done it before, but obviously we made it Patreon exclusive. And a lot of the giveaways that we've done in the past, we'd done a Patreon exclusive arm, and then we'd done an arm that was open to the general public through forms that you could fill out. And there was some backlash because of that. I think people seem to be upset about the fact that they had to basically financially support the channel to be able to be entered into a giveaway, which is understandable. It wasn't really our intention to do that. Obviously, from our perspective, we're trying to find ways that we can encourage people to support us on Patreon. And obviously that's something that we've seen that has been successful for other people, so we thought we'd try it out. But it wasn't really our intention to make it, I guess, it was our intention to kind of make it exclusive in a way, but we also didn't want to make people that can't support us financially feel bad about the way they support us, because obviously there's still tons of people that share our videos, that like our videos, that comment on our videos, and we completely appreciate the support you guys have given us. We also have we're closing on 50,000 subscribers now, and we know that only a percentage of you guys support us on Patreon, but that doesn't mean you're any less of a supporter. So basically, the long and the short of it is that we will be extending the giveaway to everyone who supports our channel. We're going to be giving away another copy of the Royal Edition, and we're going to be putting up a community post, basically with the form in it, so that if you want to try and win an extra copy of the Royal Edition, if you already have one, or if you haven't been able to buy it yourself, we're going to be letting everyone have a chance to win a copy of the Royal Edition. Yay! Hopefully that's all right. I don't know. Let me know if I said all that wrong or right, Lauren, because you're not here to be my filter. Anyway, so Future Warrior Hero 123. What did we think of the Kingsglaive movie? I think that as a as a piece of collateral in the Final Fantasy 15 universe that had its sole purpose of getting you psyched and pumped up for Final Fantasy 15, I think it achieved that. As a piece of film compared to its contemporary pieces of film, I don't think it's that great. But I remember after watching it, Lauren and I, we were lucky enough to go to the premiere. We saw Sean Bean, yay! And I remember walking out, just going like, wow, that was like really got me pumped for Final Fantasy 15 now. Like I'm really excited to see it. Like I wasn't completely blind to the fact that it was not the best written film ever. There were some serious issues there. But, as a spectacle, it got me really excited about the universe. And I was hoping to learn more about the characters that they showed off in the thing. Then obviously Final Fantasy 15 came out, and I realized that actually Kingsglaive was kind of a waste of time because a lot of it didn't translate into the game. So that was kind of a negative. So yeah. I feel like before Final Fantasy 15 came out, I was happier with it than after, because it felt like a lot of what they did in the film just bore no relation to the game. Yeah, I agree with that, Alex Baker. I don't really understand why they went. Well, I mean, I understand why they went down there. They wanted to have some names associated to the product to get more people involved, but they didn't do a theatrical release, so it seemed kind of pointless for them to do that. Good evening, Resident Fantasy. How are you? Yeah, some of the Kingsglaive stuff is starting to trickle into the main game, but the like it clearly was never intended to. They're only doing it because they're like, oh yeah, let's try and cover up the fact that we completely had no idea what we were doing. Like it's just like if you watch Kingsglaive and you play Final Fantasy 15, it's like the guys that directed both of them, they didn't even talk to each other. I think it's Nozue, right, who directed Kingsglaive. Like there's characters who don't exist in both properties, like and you never even get referenced, and like there's just so many inconsistencies between the two. It's just mind-blowing how that happened. Like how can you have such a big budget project where the story isn't even consistent? Like it's just mind-blowing. Like I don't understand how that could happen. And the only way I can think it was happening is that they were changing the story so much with Final Fantasy 15 that with Kingsglaive, because I think they started working on Kingsglaive a year or two before it came out. Like they obviously had to get that story cemented and cut and like really finalized, because they had to do a lot of work on it. Whereas I felt like 15, maybe they were chopping and changing still a little bit, and because of that, that's where the inconsistencies came from. I don't know, like it just. I think most of the stuff that we covered in our plot holes video right after Final Fantasy 15 came out, and a lot of that had to do with how 15 linked up with Kingsglaive. I don't think much of that's been fixed. I don't think it has. Like some of it has done. Obviously, Libertas has now had more love given to him in Comrades, but like yeah, yeah. I don't. What are you talking about, Ryan? The game with the maid that runs away with the huge dog thing. Are you talking about Agni's Philosophy? That's exactly what it was, Anderson. Kingslave was a 2 hour promotional material piece of 2 hour piece of promotional material for Final Fantasy 15. That was its sole purpose. It didn't have any other purpose other than that. Yeah, Kingslave is basically like the prologue to Final Fantasy 15. It doesn't make too much sense. You know, one of the one things that did bug me about it, and I want to open this up because I feel like I may actually be going a bit crazy with it. But you know, I'm going to talk about it because it's not really a spoiler to anything. Regis and Idolus are basically playing this massive chess game the entire time. But the amount of intuition needed for Regis to get to the point where he sends Noctis away, like the amount of steps that have to go into that decision, like, oh, well, if Idolus does this, then I do this, and Idolus will do that, and I do this, and then Idolus will do that, and then I'll send Noctis away. I like that. That to me was probably the weirdest, like, chain of events I think I've probably seen in any, like, I remember talking to Lauren about it afterwards, and I was like, wait, so if Idolus knew Regis was going to do this, then how did Idolus know that Regis was going to do that? And how did Regis know that Idolus was going to do that? Because they're the only way that you'd be able to get to that conclusion is if they basically predicted what each of them was going to do, all the way up to the end, essentially, which was kind of Regis's aha, checkmate. Maybe I'm just overthinking that, and maybe I know I'm overthinking it because it's not supposed to be a thinking man's film by any stretch of the imagination. Ryan, I'm pretty sure that something will with Agnes philosophy. I mean, like, they did two really. I think Agnes philosophy, I'm pretty sure, is the second most viewed trailer on the Square Enix Japan YouTube channel behind the Final Fantasy VII Remake announcement. Yeah, I mean, I think Kingslave is one of those films where you could just basically look at it and just go like, well, why did that happen? Why did this happen? Well, that makes no sense. Why is he doing that? Like, it just, there are so many parts of the film where you can just be like, what? Like, yeah, like right at the end, why does Luna decide that she needs to walk off by herself and leave Libertas? Like, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Like, other than the fact that they didn't want to put Libertas in the game at the beginning. There you go, Last Cost. You need to ask for Omen trailer DLC. Start the petition. Get them. They haven't decided what they're making yet. It's fine. I think it's hard to tell whether or not, because I obviously did watch Kingsglaive before playing Final Fantasy 15, so I don't know if I hadn't watched Kingsglaive whether or not it would have changed my experience at all. I think I would have probably been less confused if I hadn't watched it, because I was constantly thinking like, oh, I wonder if this person's going to show up. I wonder what that meant. And then they didn't show up, and it didn't mean anything. So I feel like it maybe confused me a bit more actually watching the film. And hi, Maya. How's it going? I'm pretty sure that Final Fantasy cameos will continue with Kingdom Hearts 3. I mean, I know they've been cutting them down. There was hardly any Kingdom Hearts characters in the recent games. There was, of course, Kingdom Hearts characters. There's hardly any Final Fantasy characters in the recent games. But I mean, like, Lightning surely has to be in there. Like, I don't know, but then again, they haven't shown any off yet, which is a bit puzzling to me. But Lightning surely has to be in there. I don't think Dream Drop Distance didn't have any Final Fantasy characters, did it? I remember looking this up recently. I don't think it had any. I think Zack was the only one in Birth by Sleep. And 358 maybe didn't have any either. But Kingdom Hearts 2 had plenty. And Kingdom Hearts 1 obviously had plenty. But I'm pretty sure that with Kingdom Hearts 3, like Kingdom Hearts 3, they have to. I think like Lightning is just a no-brainer for it. Like if they're going to add a character, like Squall will definitely be in there again. Like he's just such a prominent part of it. Cloud, Sephiroth, you know, there are certain characters who I think would just be that just kind of have to fit in there. But I guess we'll see what happens. Like they haven't announced anything so far, and obviously the Final Fantasy part of it used to be a big marketing tool for them, and they just don't seem to be bothered by it anymore. But yeah, I think we're gonna end the stream there, guys. It's past 10, which means it's very much approaching our bedtime, and so yeah, just to reiterate, the winners of the giveaway, the Patreon giveaway, were Martin Johnson and James Isaac Keynes, and we will be doing a second giveaway, which is open to everyone, where you can win a copy of the Final Fantasy 15 Royal Edition. We're going to be doing a community post with the form in, so you can enter. And yeah, I will see you guys soon. Probably in 2 weeks' time, I would have thought. And Lauren's, of course, going to be here on Wednesday with her Final Fantasy 15 stream. And if she is still awake, I would very much appreciate her putting a link to the Discord in the chat. But if she isn't, I am going to prepare myself. And of course, if you haven't liked the stream, feel free to like it. Show your support that way. I feel like Lauren may have fallen asleep, so we will. Here we go. I would say, like, if you guys haven't joined the Discord yet, we have well over 200 people in there now, and like if you are looking for people to try and play Dissidia NT with, then we have people there are lots of people on our community that are playing Dissidia NT, that are playing Opera Omnia. We have loads of discussions about loads of different topics, so if you haven't joined the Discord yet, I would definitely encourage you to do so, because yeah, like we have a really fun community on there, and we talk about all kind of things. There's actually a really big movement in there for Mystic Quest, so if you want to find other Mystic Quest fanboys, definitely join our Discord server. I know there's probably plenty of you guys in there already, but if you haven't joined so far, then feel free to. And with that, I will see you guys soon. Bye.